Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. I am one of the hosts, Jeff Arbuckle. With me, as always, my other two hosts, Jason Oliver. How's it
Hey,
going?
hey, good.
Good. Awesome.
I'm excited to collect another Brian De Palma baseball card today.
Yeah, Chuck unfortunately lost his Storm and Norman card.
Yeah. Someone stole his Wolf Blitzer. Yeah,
Happens.
Yeah, hey Chuck.
he'll never have a complete set.
Yeah.
Nope.
Hey Chuck, how's it going?
Good. Excited to also collect a baseball card today.
Well, you know what though? That's really, we'll tell you why. That's really good to start collecting those baseball cards at the end of this episode.
All right.
You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah. So yes, we opened up a fresh new pack of Brian De Palma trading cards, and we finally can add Blowout. This is De Palma number 4 for
Number 4.
Jason and I, number 3 for Chuck. And
We've almost gone in order. Untouchables threw us out of order, but yeah, other than that, we went Phantom of the Paradise,
Carrie.
Carrie. Well, we did Untouchables, then Carrie.
Oh, yeah.
Then now Blowout.
Well,
Yep.
we're back on track, except for someday we'll probably do Dress to Kill, and we're going to be
Yeah,
out
and
of
probably
order.
probably the Fury too.
I've got that. That's been sitting on my shelf waiting for us to think about it.
Yeah,
Which is kind of his pseudo Carrie sequel.
but this one was nestled right in between Dress to Kill and Scarface.
Yep,
It's sandwiched right in there.
sandwiched right in there like a piece of crisp lettuce. And I'm gonna say something that I don't know if it's all that controversial. This is the best one we've done yet.
De Palma?
Yeah.
Our best De Palma?
Well,
I
at least
agree.
from my perspective, it is his best that we've done so far.
I don't know. I'd put this. I might put this third for me. I do like this movie, but this movie has some problems.
I think all 4 of those movies are good, though.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. I mean, they are 4. I mean, it'd be like saying, Cuckoo's Nest, Chinatown, 5 Easy Pieces. What's the best Nicholson we've talked
Sure.
about? That's going to be tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what the worst Nicholson we've talked about, but we don't.
What was our worst Nicholson?
Postman always rings twice.
Oh, yeah. I think we'll get into it, but I think the problem with this movie is it suffers from smart people doing dumb things, and people who are way too dumb being trusted to do smart things
Well, I can.
to serve the plot.
But I would say that if this is kind of inspired by Gialli, what are we doing here?
Well, fair enough. It's most definitely inspired by Gialli, but I would also not go out of my way to say most Gialli are like great movies. They're fun movies, but they're not like, they all have pretty big faults to them.
Yeah, I mean,
They're flawed.
You know what the biggest problem with this movie is?
what's
What's that?
It's not co-ed friendly the whole time.
They didn't keep the scream.
It really does. That's a good way to get into it, because it really does start with a punch, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So we'll come back around to all of that conversation about the because I think there are things that I started thinking about today about this movie that I think makes this movie so much better for me. But it's in the storytelling, not necessarily in what the characters do or the characterization, although I love that Nancy Allen's plucked right out from the 40s and dropped into this movie. Her accent, her just, yeah, she's
What for? What for, Jeff? What
right.
for?
Yeah, it's like it's like this is
I was trying to figure out what accent she's trying to do, because it's not a Philadelphia accent.
it's like
What for?
it's a New York accent, isn't it?
And
Isn't it
I mean, the only one really doing Philadelphia to me, I mean, he represents all of the grit and grime of Philly is Dennis Franz.
oh my God.
Like,
Yeah.
like you want
Give
blue collar Philadelphia. He is him to a T.
Give that man's tank top an Oscar because it was carrying a load in this movie that dropped out of his mouth.
But the setting of the city is awesome. Like we talked about it with Body Snatchers a little bit, but man, you're right. I mean, the Philadelphia is its own character in this movie, and that's always welcome when you can take a setting and make it a character in and of itself.
Well, it's like I said, if I can't have gritty, grimy, scummy New York City, I'll take Philly any day.
And it's all taken place around the time of is it around the bicentennial?
No,
or because it's 5 years later after that.
It's the centennial of the last time the Liberty Bell rang.
Oh, sure. They celebrate all sorts of stupid shit in Philadelphia.
Well, yeah, because
America exploitation.
Yeah,
it's like a freedom parade.
Right. Well, no, it's not. I mean,
they'll find any excuse to fucking polish up that Liberty Bell. I swear to God.
Yeah, but if it was a real Philadelphia celebration, people would be climbing up the power poles and getting knocked off by baseballs and beer cans and shit.
Throwing batteries and
there would be cars turned over in the fucking
man. Yeah. Dennis Franz is gonna come after us. We better watch out. Man.
Yeah. So let's get. Oh God, this is a lot of this looked like Rocky too.
Oh yeah.
Which is great. But
I mean, same. Not that many years after, right?
Nope.
4 years after.
Well, I mean Rocky 2 was around this time.
I swear to God, like Dennis Franz just looked at Burt Young's performance as Paulie and was like, I'm gonna do a riff on that.
Well, no, he looked at that and it's like, is that guy doing a riff on me?
Right. It's like, is it me or is it you?
It's like Memorex. It's like it's live and it's anyway. I don't know where I was going with that, but
I got a good night's sleep last night, so I'm
You're ready?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. So so we get a little bit of a slasher movie opening. Where there is like the sorority house and you got a peeper outside, or it's I don't know if it's a sorority house, but like a dorm or something. And you got a peeper outside looking in through the windows, and you've got a girl studying, you've got girls dancing to loud disco music, you have some fucking, you have some masturbating, and you have some showering. And at this point, I'm like, awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this opening scene has got it all as far as the female college fantasy of men.
They self-rated themselves R after this opening scene. It's just, that's an R-rated pan right there.
It's a kind of like a very giallo opening too, right? Opening with the kind of that POV, the stalker killer. Sex and violence, just throwing it all at the screen right off the bat, highly stylized, and then they do Mr. De Palma is a little sneaky, does a little sneak, pulls the rug out from under you.
Yeah, so the killer decides he's gonna go get this girl who is just showering with like the fucking. There's like no door. There's no
shower.
There's no shower.
There is a shower curtain. She's not using it.
No, right. And she looks at the killer, notices, and she goes, ah!
Well, you see him in the mirror too, and he's like this.
He's a goofball.
He's this big pudgy goofball, like with the knife up over his head, and he somehow is completely. All the women in this dorm are completely oblivious to him just walking up and down the halls. Like he's just perfectly stalking in the shadows.
Although he wasn't perfect outside because the couple fucking had to stop because
they did see him, and he also killed the security guy. Yeah, stabbed him in the back. Yep. Yeah.
I want to see this movie.
I do too.
I really want to see Code Frenzy. It looks awesome.
I think
it really does.
I think we could make this movie today, guys.
I mean, sure. We already have our opening shot, you know? We can just create
we'll
that.
just take it.
Let's recreate that.
Dial up Brian De Palma and it's like, hey man, can we take that and finish
I
it?
have to say too, like the scream that she lets out
It killed me.
is so bad. And like at first I was like,
well,
is this
Chuck,
fucking...
he didn't hire the girl for her scream. He hired her for her tits.
Yes, I know.
Susan and I laughed out loud so
Oh
hard
my
at
god!
that scream.
Every time they kept playing it too, it was killing me.
And yeah, I realized I've never seen Blowout before until last night, and I was like, is that serious? Is that for real? And then obviously you come to find what that whole scream is about, but man, is it bad. It's like wonderfully, perfectly bad.
Oh, it's so perfect. And it's interesting, the bookend of this movie, to go from where we are here with this really, really funny joke to the tragic ending. I mean, this movie really takes a downward spiral from here as far as what happens to our characters. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's night and day how this movie starts and ends. Yep.
Yeah. And so that's when we meet Jack Terry. That's John Travolta. Hey, Mr. Carter. And he's like, we need to, it's like, you hired her. And that's when the guy says, I hired her for her tits. And he's like, well, yeah. Yeah. And then, and he's like, well, all your sounds suck. It's like, well, I pulled them from the library that we have here. It's like, what do you want from me? It's like, well, I want you to bring me some new sounds. I've heard these sounds 1,000 times. And so John Travolta's like, yeah, okay. I guess I can go record some sounds. But there's important shit that happens before we get to the park. Because he is in his sound room and he is collecting stuff. He's also tagging certain clips as different sounds and stuff. And I'm pretty sure, and I wasn't smart enough to rewatch this scene or to think about it again, but I watched as many times possible so I can list as many of those movie posters in my notes that are hanging in the walls there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
I got them. There was one I couldn't tell what it was, but I got the rest of them.
I always love that old Squirm poster. That's a good one.
I love it. Yeah. But so he is I think he is marking sound based on what the news report that's kind of ambient sound in the background happening in his room. I think there are certain sounds that he is doing that corresponds to stuff that's happening on the TV. I could be wrong about that, and maybe I should have rewatched that instead of just.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, no, because he turns on the TV and he's like going around. He's like listening to the sounds that he has, and he's marking the sounds. Right. Meanwhile, the news report is talking about the Liberty Ball, which is the celebration that everything leads to.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how Governor George McRyan is probably going to use this as an opportunity to announce his presidential campaign. And I think when they split screen it, so we're watching the news report and we're watching him work on the different sounds, I think there are certain sounds that correspond.
Oh, maybe. I mean, that would have been great if you rewatched that. But
yeah,
maybe.
Instead of speaking to that with authority, I probably should have watched that.
I was just obviously keyed in on what's happening on TV because it's very clearly exposition. It's important information you're going to need to know. Yeah,
and it's also important to Jack Terry's character because he doesn't give a shit about this. It's on TV, but he's not at all.
Well, he doesn't seem to give a shit about much of anything.
No, he really kind of doesn't. He's and we find out later something that happened to him that is probably why.
Yeah, exactly. My notes on Travolta's character at this point is he doesn't seem to like his job, doesn't seem to be very good at his job, or at least is apathetic about it to the point where he's not doing a good job and doesn't really care to, right? Sure, he's working on shitty movies. He knows they're shitty movies, but, it's work. And he doesn't do a very good job of it. But then he does go out to get some new sounds. So
so he goes to
think, oh yeah, cool. All right, he's gonna go out and get some sounds. Of course, knowing this movie, I remember, obviously, this is our kind of cornerstone scene, but yeah, take it away. He's going out to the park.
Yeah, so he goes out to the park, and he is recording a little bit of wind through the trees. Then he kind of puts the boom over to this couple that are just kind of making out. And the girl's like, hey, that guy's looking at us. And the guy's like, I don't care. It's like he wants to get up in there. You know, it's like he doesn't care who's watching. He doesn't care if John Travolta's over there recording him. And John Travolta's kind of laughing about it.
He might like it even more. He's like,
he might.
Yeah.
But even Travolta kind of chuckles a little bit. And then there's a frog. There's a bug or something that's chirping away. And then there's an owl. And the owl, we kind of focus on that for a little bit because both Travolta and the owl react to squealing tires coming down the road. And then, because they're coming around a bend super fast. And then there's a blowout, hence the title of the movie. And the car careens off the road into the kind of wooden guardrail into the creek. And Jack immediately reacts. Like he's not a bad guy because he realizes these people could probably need help, you know. And he goes down there. He notices that there's a girl struggling to get out of the car. He's able to get a rock and bust the window because he can't open the doors and all of that. And he saves the girl. He does see a guy in the car, but he's like bloodied and it's clear that he's already dead. And so he takes the girl to the hospital where now he begins getting questioned by the police. And the police are kind of dubious of his testimony. Like, you know, what were you doing there? Why only the girl? Why the
Sorry,
you know?
I zoned out for a second. Did you mention that there was a person under the bridge?
No,
because you can clearly see that person. That there was when John Travolta comes down off the bridge and jumps into the water, you can see a person under the bridge who like then comes out, is like, "Ooh, what's going on?" Sees John Travolta and then goes up and across and runs across the bridge. I love it.
We know who that is. And
we find out who that is later, yes. But I love that you see that person because that's something you don't really see in movies anymore. That kind of clue where you think it's kind of giving something away, but it's not. It's creating more intrigue.
Well, you just think that it's just some homeless guy under the bridge or a hobo.
Right.
Well, there were two other things that he heard, too, which one might have been a camera, and two sounded like a wire zipping, which we'll know what that is.
Right, and that's and that's why we and that's why I put like bug question mark, because when he goes back through the next day and listens to everything, that's where there's that sound that sounds like a bug chirping or something, but you can't tell what he's looking at in his memory. It's like he doesn't know what it is.
He's trying to point to it.
Right.
But he can't. Yeah.
He can't figure it out.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful scene because it gives him and the audience everything they need. And the whole rest of the movie is about making what happened with what he saw in the recordings that he took, and come to find out there's another key piece of evidence that he gets later, and putting it all together to essentially
it's
reconstructing the crime scene.
It's the sequence. Yeah. And it's really important, the sequence of the sounds. And I'll get to that here in just a minute. But yeah, so the cops are a little dubious about what his story is. You know, what were you doing in the park? Why didn't you save the guy that's in the car? You know, why only the girl? Well, because the girl was struggling and all, you know, and it's like, why not the girl? And, you know, why?
Well, but even more than that, he was like, are you sure there was a girl? Like trying to lead him to say no.
He's like, the girl in the other room. Yeah. I mean, she's right there, you know?
Yeah. It's like, if you're trying to get objective testimony or whatever,
right,
I'm out of here. Forget this.
And then, so then a guy comes in by the name of Lawrence Henry. And Lawrence Henry is a friend of Governor George McRyan, who was the man in the car. Now, Travolta doesn't know that because, again, he doesn't give a shit about that. That was part of that one scene where the news is going on and he doesn't care about it. It's just kind of happening in the background to him. So he doesn't know what the governor looks like. So when he saw him in the car, he didn't think anything of it, just help the person who's struggling. And then Lawrence Henry says, basically, forget about the girl, forget that you had anything to do with this, that you saw anything. And he says, well, I made the police report. And he's like, that's already been taken care of. And then he's like, but why? What is this? What's going on? It's like, well, do you want to tell McRyan's wife that he died with his hand up some girl's dress? He's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I'll help you and the girl get out the back, take her someplace and just forget about it. Just move on with your life. So he goes and talks to Sally, who is Nancy Allen, and she's already she might have had multiple incredible brain trauma in her life.
Dude.
Because she is all over the place right now.
Well, in this scene, she's drugged.
Well, she is, but she doesn't. She only perks up for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, she doesn't get any smarter. That's for sure.
Yeah. So she's walking around. She's looking for her purse. She's like, "Where's my purse? Where's the?" And he's like, "Why don't you get back in the bed or whatever?" And he's like, I'll take you out for a drink later." It's like, hey, why not? It's like, why not ask her
in a glass? Right. That cracked me up. That's good.
So he then basically at that point it's like, yeah, go ahead and get out of here, get out of there. And they go in and he puts her in he gets her clothes, he puts her in the Jeep that he drives, and she's like, well, take me to my place. No, I want to go to your place. No, let's just get a hotel room. And he says, things are moving pretty fast.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Kate, I think this girl wants to have the sex with me. Ew.
So
I want to note real quick that this was the fourth movie in a row that Nancy Allen had made with Brian De Palma. With Brian De Palma. Well, not in a row, but she did do Home Movies, Dressed to Kill, and Blowout all in a row. And then before that, she'd done Carrie. And then she never worked with him again. Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, Travolta did this and Carrie with him. Franz did another movie with him, right?
Dressed to Kill.
Yeah, Dressed to Kill.
Yeah. And as John Lithgow was in 3.
Yeah,
because he
was in Raising Cain, right? Playing. Yeah. I mean, really, it could almost be the same character if you take it in a different direction, right?
One of the personalities is definitely this character.
Yeah. Most definitely.
And Dressed to Kill too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's like basically Raising Cain was like the greatest hits of Brian De Palma, all in one character.
It kind of was, yeah. It's also, I think, his most shameless Hitchcock knockoff.
Does that movie, Jason, you might know this off the top of your head, does that movie have problems, or can I still watch that and like it? Because I remember liking in the 90s
Raising Cain. I haven't seen it in a while. I saw it in the theater. I think it was one of the first rated R movies I saw in the theater.
I saw it in the theater. I know that. Yeah.
And all I remember really is that its take on schizophrenia is probably a little it's very giallo, but very dated. Yeah.
And Dressed to Kill is going to be very dated too.
It's not too kind of a representation of people with schizophrenia.
Yeah, I mean, and it's that could be a whole other discussion that we can have, because it's like, where can you draw a line of?
And it's actually not even schizophrenia. I don't know if they call it schizophrenia in the movie, but that condition is actually multiple personality disorder, which is not the same thing as schizophrenia, but people conflate it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's a lot that can go into that discussion of where's the line between acceptable to create.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
plot
maybe
and
we'll
what's- yeah.
we'll do it. I got us off on a
No,
tangent.
no, no,
I
no,
did
that's,
that.
No, no,
That's my fault.
Well, it was my fault because I talked about Nancy Allen's work with De Palma. But
What
anyway.
for?
What for? I was just curious. That she never worked with him again. I don't know if there's something there. It's curious to me.
Well, it seemed as though because around this time she was in 1941 also,
Yeah.
and her career went in a different direction later.
Yeah, 1941 didn't do much for many people's careers, except some like Spielberg were able to overcome it pretty
Right.
well.
Arguably, you could probably say like, Christopher Lee probably did all right after,
That's a weird movie. It's one of
yeah.
those. It's just a weird movie with a lot of good people and just nothing worked.
Yeah.
Like, nothing.
Maybe
works
someday
in that
we'll
movie.
talk about that one too. But yeah, so anyway, so the next morning, this is when he's reviewing his tape at this, and it might have actually been super duper smart that they went to the motel. We don't know that. It's not really explicitly stated, but it's one of those things again that this movie kind of, you can think beyond what you actually see and what you're actually getting from the movie. Because one of the things I thought about later was, I bet it was probably actually good that they didn't go to either one of their houses that night.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
But then, so they, so the next morning, he's kind of going through what he recorded. He's got his pencil and he's kind of like retracing his steps, which I think this indicates that he is actually better at his job. He's just apathetic working for a shitty, exploitation company.
Oh, completely. Yeah, he absolutely is. But he has a lot of flaws that he thinks he can overcome in this movie that he absolutely doesn't.
No.
He is. I think he has an inflated sense of himself.
I think it may be. I think it's more than that. I think it's.
I do too. I think it is more than that. But that's
because
part
I think
of it.
I think it's part of his past and his
Uh-huh.
idealism that deflated him, and then he now is rising back up to fight that corruption again.
Right.
Yeah, one thing we should note that he told the cop early in their conversation is that he heard the bang before the blowout. And the cop's like, that's an echo. And he's like, no.
Doesn't believe him.
I do
Like,
this
I'm a
for
sound
living.
person. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I
So-
know.
While he's
this is
smoking
why
a cigarette in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You
so
could do that back in the day.
I know, it's crazy.
So yeah, so when he's going back through, he's trying to prove that he heard more than what he thinks. So that's, you hear the wind and it plays that, and you can see that. Then there's the two people that are walking along the creek. They're making out, and you see that. And then you hear the frog. And then you hear that scraping, chirping sound, and it seems to be almost lost at that point. Like you're looking at almost nothing at that point from his memory. And then there's the owl, squealing tires, a bang, a blowout, then the crash, and then him saying, Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
I want to pause here for a second too and talk about the fact that nobody wants to treat this like a crime. Nobody. The cops don't care. I don't even know. Like, all right, the governor of a state gets killed in an accident. I'm not even sure like local police have jurisdiction. I think that at that point it's like state police, and there's none of them. This is where the movie
police or FBI.
This is where the movie starts to fall into that giallo convenience, right?
Well, it's
because I mean, you bet your ass that car is going to get investigated. They're going to look at the tire, but the character makes a point later to point out that he's like, why would I do that?
Well,
it's like, because it's your fucking job to investigate every angle of this thing that happened.
Well, this kind of made me think a little bit of Thief, where the cops are just, they're either bad or they want easy wins. And it's, and it's like,
Or
we're not going to get in the way of this.
And like where the car is not even like It's not guarded. It's not locked up hardly. It's very easy access to get to it.
Because
Like
they don't
nobody's treating this seriously.
They give us an indication of why, and I can make this jump myself, is that when they made the girl disappear, it's obvious that they're paying people off.
Well,
Yes.
sure.
Right?
Sure.
So they paid them not to care about the investigation too. That is my
But I mean, here's the thing. Like the guy who's paying people off is the governor's, like, who is he? He's like his
he's his right hand man or whatever, but we don't
Right.
know we never learn his full involvement in
but
anything.
but that's the problem I have with this. Is
Right.
you're going to have other political forces that are in war with those political forces that are going to want it to be investigated, and they're going to be
Well-
pushing to have it investigated. All you see is like this
Well, but
one
you
shadowy side of this political intrigue, that to me just doesn't feel realistic.
Well, why would you want to continue to investigate it if you're the guy who why would you want to have it continuously investigated if you're the guy who paid John Lithgow to shoot?
Well,
No,
we don't know
I'm
that
not
he
saying
was.
I'm not saying that he should, but I'm saying there are going to be other people
That's fair.
in the sphere of
Yeah.
influence of this governor who
Right,
are
but
going to
that's-
want to get to the bottom of the truth.
That's a completely different story, though.
It
Because
is.
this is the macro story as it affects a very specific
I
duo
understand
of
that.
people.
I understand that, but it still doesn't mean that there shouldn't be more care taken with the evidence from this accident.
Well, also remember that when the cops I don't care what you have to say, you put a lot of good cops away. That guy, if he's mad at John Travolta for getting rid of good cops when John Travolta was part of a sting to take down corrupt cops, that cop's not reliable.
But
Fuck him.
you've also had cops on record in the hospital saying, "Hell, I would have voted for him." This governor was loved, and nobody seems to care.
I think that's a fair criticism, but for this movie, I can look past that.
I understand, but it's something that takes me out of it.
Right,
It really
I get
does.
it. Fair criticism, I think.
So so at this point he realizes that there's a very clear different bang before the blowout. So so he feels like he's kind of on to something, but this kind of he wants to continue to try to get to know Sally. Maybe she has a better screen. Maybe he can use her for the movie.
Oh, poor Sally.
Anyway, meanwhile,
She's like a baby deer.
she kind of is. She just
Yeah.
kind of is always, but she's excited about makeup.
And he's
Yeah.
definitely fawning over her.
Oh,
Well, yeah.
yes, he is. And
Well,
she
I mean,
actually
she's cute.
seems to be good and knowledgeable. Like she probably would be a good,
Oh yeah,
set makeup artist. Yeah.
Later, they go out on a pseudo date of sorts where she's been paid to leave the town, right? And he meets up, and she probably should have, but he meets up with her, and they go to have a drink, and she's like, "Yeah, this is look at my face. This was 2 hours of doing makeup, and this is the no makeup look." And he's like, "Wow," it's like that. Like he seems kind of impressed, but I think he's just was like, I'm gonna fawn over her a little bit.
But she even says, "You don't care about this at all, do you?"
he's like, hey, no, hey.
Hey.
He has to deal with a lot of Thetans right now. But anyway, so he so after she kind of leaves, it's like, you can call me at my friend's house. She's in the book. I'm getting out of here. Thanks for getting me out of the hospital or whatever. He then, so then we see that night, a guy sneaks into the impound, switches out the tire, and he also has something in his trunk that's really important, which is the magnetic tape to erase audio tape.
Yeah.
And
I love that little thing because it leads the audience, sure, but it's easy to miss also.
yeah, because
You know,
it takes 45 minutes for this to come back.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So he and so like he also wants to, or Jack also then begins to kind of ask Sally, it's like, well, what happened with the accident? Why were you with the with Mick Ryan? And she doesn't want to tell him. This was before she left the hotel with, and got out of there. And she's like, who are you? I don't even know who you are. And he's like, well, but I want to get to know you better. And I'd really like to know, because he's becoming obsessed with this moment, because again, this is kind of re-triggering those old things that we find out about his past, where there's some sort of a conspiracy or a corruption thing going on here.
Yeah. Right.
And I want to get to the bottom of it. And he's going to he becomes kind of a one-man superhero team that is just not, it's not going to be enough. He's not going to win this.
It's the scene when she talks about the makeup, being a makeup artist, that he then tells her his sad story.
Right.
About what he was doing before he was a sound man.
Right. And basically he was working with the police on a task force to get corruption out of the Philadelphia City Police.
Yeah, and there's actually even before that. This is a really well written scene for him, because it gives you a lot of information, but not in a way that you feel dumped on, right? He talks about himself kind of self-deprecatingly, but also with a little bit of pride.
Mm-hmm.
He was, he calls himself, he was like the tech whiz kid in high school, the AV nerd basically. And then he went into the army, and to which Nancy Allen Sally was like, "Oh, why would you do that? Did you see any action or whatever?" I can't remember how she put it. He's like, "No,
Did you go to war?"
Right? Did you go to war? And he's like, "No, I was too smart for that, or they thought I was too smart for that. They put me in intelligence, and
I never left
New Jersey, I think.
Yeah, that's
something
what
like
I
that.
never left New Jersey.
And then after he left the army, he got a job working for the police, and to which she was like, "Oh, you were a cop?" He's like, "Nope, I wasn't a cop. I would just work with the cops. I helped them with surveillance." And he talks about what the one thing that kind of he did that sort of ended his career in police surveillance. Who wants to take it from there?
Well, he basically was tapped to wire one of the undercover cops, the best undercover cop. And basically they were going to expose a corrupt captain talking to a mob boss. And basically it was an extortion kind of, not an extortion, but if you give me $5,000, I will make sure that your guy does not get put away for violating his parole.
Yeah, the mob was paying off the cops. They're bribing cops. It was a bribery scheme.
But the problem is that it starts to get shaky, because the mob boss like, whoa, wait a minute, 5,000. You said it was going to be all taken care of for 1,000. The guy begins to sweat.
Yeah.
And right in some important parts, the sweat starts to short out the battery, and it creates static.
He's a big guy too, like right in between these two guys.
They're all big guys.
Arguing over him in the backseat of the car. It's very good.
Right, and he's like, I don't feel so good.
Too.
Yeah, I don't feel so good. I need to take a piss. But the thing is that not only does it short out the battery compartment for the wire, it lights it on fire.
Yeah.
It arcs the battery to the point where he's got basically it's burning through his stomach at this point. And Travolta knows it, and he's like, I got to go help him. The guy he's with is like, no, you can't. This is going to blow his cover. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be all bad. And they realize that something's not right. And Travolta finds the undercover cop hanging in a bathroom stall by the wire he put on him.
Yep.
That would fuck you up.
Yep. So he and then Nancy Allen, Sally says it wasn't your fault, but he's like, it was. I was responsible. It was my equipment that got him killed. Yeah.
Right. Whether or not I wasn't the one that killed him, but I put him in that situation. It's my stuff that I didn't realize he was going to sweat. He probably could have protected him better from that.
Yep.
So yeah. Now before all of that happened, there are a couple of other things of note. Manny Carp shows up. Now, Manny Carp is Dennis Franz doing his most Dennis Franz ever. And he happened to be filming at the park and got the accident on film. Now, what's interesting...
And that's when you realize, oh, he was the guy under the bridge.
Right.
He's the guy that fled the scene. Yep.
Right. But Jack thinks that there's something, and this is brilliant. In my notes, I put, Jack knows there's something fishy about Carp, and I didn't even mean.
Oh.
Oh. I didn't even mean to do that. It just came out naturally. But anyway, he knows that something's not right about this guy. Something isn't right about this. And he has sold all of the pictures to a particular magazine. And he's making a ton of money off of this. And the magazine has published the pictures in sequential order. And so Jack gets the idea to cut up the pictures and basically use the animation studio in this film company that's above a porno theater. I love it. They have an animation studio, probably making shit like, Shitty Fritz the Cat or
it's
Down
like
and Dirty Duck or something.
Boschke knockoffs,
yeah. But yeah, so he and he realized, because he realizes he can animate it, because he cuts out each frame and he flipped like a flip book, and he realizes, and then he thinks about it, and he's like, he could match up everything that's happened and then look at the actual accident again with everything put back together. Now, this is when he comes into the office to go into the animation room. Here are the posters in the office. You got Squirm, Food of the Gods, The Boogeyman, The Incredible Melting Man, Island of the Damned, Without Warning, Fantasex, and Blood Beach. I could not tell what the one with the martini glass was next to the office door. But then in the office where his boss is doing a new Scream audition to replace that bad Scream, there's Lure of the Triangle, which I'm pretty sure is a sex flick, and Empire of the Ants. And it's like, those are some awesome posters.
Empire of the Anus?
Of the Ants.
Oh.
No, it wasn't a Tinto Brass film.
Lure of the Triangle, I think, was just about Bush.
Yeah.
But anyway, so but no, the girls all scream for him. He's like, get more girls. No, these aren't going to cut. Yeah, these aren't going to cut it.
That's a funny scene. He just points at him and they go in succession. All he just says is, keep looking.
Keep looking. Yeah. What do you mean, keep looking? Keep looking. So, right. So now at this point, like, okay, so then Jack meets up with Sally because he knows he's getting closer, because he takes the pictures of each picture, takes it to the film developer, and then he calls Sally. And it's like, hey, I told you I'd call you for that drink. Yeah, I'll meet you at the train station. So that's when we get that scene where he explains, and you got the flashback of what he did. Yep. And then she was also paid a couple of grand to leave town by the Henry character, to which Jack now doesn't really trust anybody but Sally. And this is also kind of to his detriment.
Yeah.
Because he thinks, well, there's something wrong with this Henry guy. There's something weird about Carp. There's something weird about everything being kind of too easily being put away. We don't know if it was shot out. Why was it shot out? And all these things that he is now all this stuff is starting to heap up on his plate that he can't solve. Anyway, he can only deliver the evidence. He can't solve why anything's going to happen. But he knows everything's wrong.
Right.
Do we see the phone call between John Lithgow and the governor's right-hand man before or after the prostitute gets, or not prostitute, but the woman
gets killed? And
it's after. Because that's about to happen.
That's not the same old guy. by the
It's
way.
not the same old guy? It's a
No,
different guy?
Henry's never seen again. The
Huh.
old guy that you see is the guy who was on TV.
The TV in the beginning.
Oh,
At the
yeah.
beginning, he says, "Well, presidents have to make have to make tough decisions." It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's
He
like
also said at that point, a lot could happen between now and then.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
it almost
definitely
made it seem like that
foreshadowing
he was the current president, but no, he wasn't. He was somebody in the administration, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, like he
Okay,
was
well-
the spokesperson. So that's
then-
why he is involved, is so that McBrien doesn't basically take out the president.
All right, well, let's talk about this scene then, because this is a very Giallo kill scene.
It's awesome.
It's
Yeah,
really
so-
awesome. Yeah.
After Jack decides to keep, or after Jack convinces Sally to stay in town for a couple of weeks to help him out, you see her walking in the mall, and there's a guy that we find out later is John Lithgow, and he's got a picture of her, and he begins following her, and they're going through like a fish market, and he picks up an ice pick.
Yep.
And take it away, whoever.
Well, he ends up following who we still think is Nancy Allen, right? Down to this little bridge area, and he attacks her, and they roll down a hill, and it's kind of awesome when they're rolling down the hill.
Yeah.
He ends up, I don't know how he actually kills her, but then he takes the
garrote.
ice pick.
The garrote killed
his watch garrote.
Yep. That is very Giallo to have a garrote
Oh, yeah.
handy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't notice it then, but I should have, that this is the sound that Terry was picking up in the beginning on his tape, was the garrote coming in and out of the watch, because he obviously fiddles with it.
Yep.
Right, because he was waiting to get rid of the girl too.
Yes.
Yep.
And he ends up taking the ice pick that he took and putting the Liberty Bell
On her
in her
torso.
stomach.
So two things here. Two things here.
Yeah, because it also gets down there.
Yeah.
Because they said the part of it was even on her, whatever bits.
So two things here. Does he get himself faked out when he kills her? Does he think it's Sally and realize, oh crap, I was following the wrong woman? Or is it intentional?
It's intentional because
well, I know what he says later, but I'm saying when he kills her, he looks up at the billboard. He makes the decision then to do the impression in her body with the ice pick.
I do think that his original plan was just to get rid of her. And then when he killed the wrong girl, he formulated a new plan.
I think
to
so
make
too.
The serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that he had already pre-calculated. I didn't get the girl when I was supposed to, so now I need to create, because let's face it, fucking Burke can't not kill in this movie. Like any opportunity he has to kill somebody, I think he was already going to become a serial killer.
I mean, I agree with you though, Chuck. I think he accidentally stalked and killed the wrong girl and then had to come up with a story.
I never, because I thought that too, because when he rolled her over and we realized, oh, that's not Nancy Allen, you don't see that moment of realization that, oh shit, I didn't kill. You see,
but he looks up at the billboard.
Yes,
that's the thing for me. He concocts at least some part of his plan in that moment.
Well, yes, because he's sadistic, and he's like, oh, I'll make this even, because the thing is that the way I look at it is a dead hooker on the street, not really going to get a whole lot of attention, or somebody dead on the street is just going to be a murder. But if you can make it grisly, it's going to get attention, so that when he continues to do this.
But wasn't she also like a school teacher? I don't even think she was a prostitute.
She was a secretary.
A secretary,
But the situation that she was in, she was dressed like a prostitute. She was, and it's like
that's to me why it signals like that. I have to change this. I have to make this look like something else now.
I think he made it to look worse so that it would get more attention. So that then, when more and more people show, and then when Sally eventually shows up like this, then it would just be, she was accidentally gotten rid of.
Well, sure, he's creating a pattern, and he's going to bury her murder in a series of murders that has
But I
nothing
think
that has no connection to the governor.
that character was.
But that character has no connection to the governor anyway. The people have already made sure of that,
He
right?
doesn't know that. They don't know that though. The other side that got rid of him doesn't know that. They don't know that that Jack and Sally are already basically been thrown away, and not to be believed. And so they're just trying to finish off whatever's left over.
Well, not only that. Well, hold on. Not only that, and we'll find out on the phone call soon.
Yeah,
Lithgow is on his own thing.
yeah.
He is already
He's already a killer.
And he's already completed the part that he was supposed to be involved with, and then takes the rest of this on.
I mean, he wasn't even supposed to do what he did,
right.
in the first place.
Well, no, because he says, "Well, that was my plan when we agreed to meet originally." And it's like he's already.
Yeah, we said no. We nixed that plan. We were doing something else.
He was already going to become a serial killer. I think
He probably already was.
He probably maybe already was, but he certainly
he's certainly like ex-military black ops.
Yes.
Like the way he executes and talks about things, it's a mission. But yeah, he has snapped somewhere along the line into being a psychopath. Yep.
And that's another one of those things where there is this bigger story nebulously out there, but we're watching it only from Jack and Sally's perspective. So to them, this guy has accidentally entered their life.
Well, we're getting more than just their perspective for the necessity of the plot. But
well,
yes,
a little bit more, but it's still the smaller scale where we're centered on two people.
John Lithgow's villain in this is really, man, it makes this movie scary because he is a scary person.
Yeah, he's very intense.
He's very intense. He's very effective in this role.
He might work for Atlantic Bell because he's always dressed like a telephone lineman.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he certainly knew how to fuck with telephone lines.
He's also like an interesting and intellectual foil to our John Travolta character, right?
Who is all ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they both have clearly a set of skills, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, so at this point, let's see, where am I at my notes? Chuck, where am I at?
Well, they have the phone call.
Yeah,
he calls the shadowy old man who was on the phone. And this is where John Lithgow, he's pretty clearly pointed out that he's a rogue agent at this point. They never wanted the governor dead. They just wanted to set him up with the prostitute and get the pictures taken and just ruin his career.
Well, the word is eliminate McRyan from the election.
Right.
To a killer, that is, I'm going to kill him.
I did my job.
To a politician, it is muckrake.
Yeah.
It's completely different skill set here.
And this is then where you...
Which is funny because Travolta would be on the side of get the tainted guy away from power, even if he's a good politician. He did something corrupt. Get him out. Right. And so Travolta would be on that side. In fact, he maybe would have even helped wire somebody to foil him if he cared. But
it was totally a setup job. So this is where you find out that Carp and Sally know each other. Sally goes to see Carp. And they have a whole shtick. They do this for hire, where Sally plays the prostitute or the secretary or whomever, and then Dennis Franz Carp busts in and takes the pictures, and they frame and they sell it. They sell it to the tabloids or whatever. Yeah.
Or
exactly.
back to the person they're setting up.
Right. Or they blackmail people. Yeah, totally.
She also doesn't really know much of anybody because it's like, who do you do this with? I don't know. Husbands, businessmen, politicians, small local politicians, not even the big stuff. This was the big fish.
So they were just one part of this whole thing. They didn't know that Lithgow was even out there. They had a job to do.
And they didn't know that Jack was out there either because Franz takes off when Jack jumped in the water. He's like, by the way, honey, I never told you I don't know how to swim.
Yeah, the idea was for Sally to lure the governor out there to that same park where the other people were making out.
Well,
And
no,
essentially
he was. They
take
were going to take
pictures.
him. He planned because she went up to him and said, "I think you're really neat." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got something really neat to show you. Let me take you to my office or wherever. I'll take you someplace of mine." But Franz was waiting for him in the park, but that's
Yeah.
not where the original. That's not where she said McRyan was going to take her.
Well, that's interesting. So he
Yeah.
had a different piece of the information than she did. Yeah.
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 So then,
But Karp is very adamant about the fact that he didn't know anyone was going to get hurt, and I actually believe him in that.
they seem too low level and
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And honestly, Lithgow kind of confirms that when he has a conversation and saying he's definitely gone off the rails here. He's gone and is doing his own plan.
No, the car went through the rails, not off.
Yeah, right. He doesn't give a shit about photographs. He's going to eliminate the governor in a much more precise manner.
Right. Yeah, he took that a little too literally.
This is the time where we need to take a commercial break because this episode and this movie is brought to you by J&B Whiskey.
Yes.
Yay.
Well, wait a minute before we get to that, because this is yes, J&B sponsored Dennis Franz all the way through this movie, but he so Jack has now gotten the animation back that he made with the pictures, and he can now loop everything. And he notices that when the bang happened before the blowout, there's a little muzzle flash in the bushes.
Yeah, and both of these things are happening around basically at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
He hides the evidence of the film in the ceiling.
Yeah.
He takes the audio evidence to the police.
Yeah.
But they don't exactly like Jack because of the corruption stuff that he uncovered.
Right.
Anyway,
they have this whole argument that just drives me crazy. This is where I get kind of frustrated with this movie because the cop keeps insisting that he's going to do his job. He's going to investigate this, and he does eventually take Travolta's at least serious enough to take the audio tape to get it analyzed, all while saying, "I never checked the tire." It's like, fucking motherfucker. I mean, either you're going to investigate this fully, or you're just a bad cop, and maybe he's just a shitty cop.
There's indication that there is. Again, this is kind of a city full of not great people, like in Thief. It's the idea that the cops are going to try to get their part.
It's yeah. I mean, either he doesn't even think to have checked the tire. He even says, "I was like, why would I have checked the tire?" I don't know. Maybe you would investigate the car that was in an accident. I mean, even insurance fucking investigators will do that. It's ludicrous,
But I mean, the Henry came along and said,
it's the governor that died in his car. It's not just some fucking schmo.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry. Again,
sorry to belabor it, but it just drives me crazy.
There's no reason to defend it, I don't think, and there's no reason to belabor it, because
probably not.
It is a fair criticism, but it would make this movie not work on many other different levels.
It's just funny to me that they doubled down on it, right? And it could work. It could work because there's a way to write it that it works, because it could be the thing that gets the cop on John Travolta's side. He's like, there's something funny with the tire. I can't tell if it's a bullet hole, but there's two blowouts, right? And that's curious to me. So maybe there is something to your audio tape. Let me take it and get it analyzed.
But then
easy fix. Boom.
The third act doesn't work then.
Why not?
At all. Because it becomes a desperate, frantic chase to the conclusion.
Well, it does still
literally becomes just
it does still work because the magnetic tape still is erased. It still is erased. It's one little piece of evidence that has nothing to support it.
Well, all right. Well,
it still works.
Well, but no, it wouldn't, because if he believed that, then the cop would say, "Hey, this is erased. either at that point, he either is going to double down that John Travolta is being a crazy conspiracy theorist, or this guy, I did look at the tire. I am starting to believe it. So it introduces another person into the ultimate conclusion of this movie that can't be there.
Guys, even if he looks at the tire at that point, it doesn't matter because it's been replaced. So
It's been replaced now.
On.
Yeah. Well, it has been replaced now. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Which is Burke doing his crazy best.
Yes.
To do his thing. So,
but yes, it does set up the frantic stuff later, which I also have a small problem with, but we'll get there. Because John Travolta has learned absolutely fucking nothing from his past. Nothing. He is absolutely like willfully going down a road that will repeat the past mistakes.
Willfully is
not willfully, but subconsciously. I mean, he's not thinking anything through.
He doesn't know where he's sending her. He doesn't know who's intercepting her.
Well,
that would be completely different if he did.
But you wouldn't think that you'd want it like eyes on. You know where the meat is. I mean, it's the easiest thing in the fucking world to either one, pick up a phone and call the reporter and say, "Hey, is this a real meat?" Or two, be in the goddamn fucking room.
Yeah, they should have gone together.
I mean, that's just dumb.
It's story.
I know, but
I wish Pauline Kael was still alive, because she could probably explain a lot better than I why this was one of her few unconditional raves that she ever handed out to a movie.
Well, Pauline Kael wasn't perfect. I do really like this movie.
And neither are you.
I do really like this movie, but I have to point out the things that drove me crazy about it, because these things did drive me crazy.
Fair enough. So, okay. So, gosh, we've already jumped to that. There's other shit that goes on.
Anyway, that's all right. We can backtrack. It's not that much.
Yeah. So basically, Travolta tries to get to Carp at this point.
Yeah.
And
because he wants the original negative.
He wants the original negative, and so he's going to try to get it from Carp or whatever. And there's a cop that's kind of guarding entry to Carp, and he's like, "Yeah, I bet you're a customer," because he keeps saying it's like, "Hey, he took some pictures for me. I want to go pick him up." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I bet he did. Just like everybody else who showed up today said he did. You're with the press, and I, basically get out of here." And he shows him a picture of McRyan with Sally.
I think it's a different guy.
No, it's a different guy. It is a different guy.
It's a different guy.
And that's when he realizes that Sally was in on the whole thing with McRyan.
Right.
And that's when he then confronts her and says, so what was this? And this is when he shows her the animation, and it's like, there, you see something right there. There's the muzzle flash. And she's
I need the whole tape.
I need the whole thing, because here's the thing. If they know that we're out here and we know this, they're coming for us. And that's when she realizes I need to get, I need to, she kind of goes into self-preservation mode a little bit.
Yeah.
Because she realizes that John Travolta is right. And also that Carp might have maybe sold her out, or could sell her out. And sure enough, he is not to be trusted, because he was given $6,000. She's like, "What do you mean? It was only $3,000 and we split that." He's like, "Oh yeah, 3 before and 3 after." And she's like, "Okay, whatever." And it's like, "I'm going to pay you once I get the 3 after." But then she realizes that this is all cruddy, and that there's something really bad that they did this time. And she's like, "Oh, you can keep your 3 after." Into which he's like, "Just give me a swig of that J&B off the bottle." But J&B comes to save the day, because Carp tries to rape Sally, and she knocks him out. We never see Carp again. For all we know, J&B killed him.
It might have. This is my favorite shot of the movie, by the way. After she wallops him, the camera slowly moves. It's all like one shot. It slowly moves to this overhead shot in crummy Carp's apartment. It's fucking beautiful. It's bathed in like the neon red light from the window outside. It's super, super good.
So, why do they present him as Jesus Christ here?
Ah.
He's got his arms. Stephanie said it immediately. She's like, Jesus Christ on a motel bed or whatever. But his arms are open. His legs are crossed like he's on the cross. It's literally like a picture of Jesus.
Yeah, my guess is
he's
that's De Palma just riffing a little bit. Probably doesn't have much to do with anything,
Well, it's probably
but probably is intentional. Yeah.
It's probably foreshadowing that he becomes the Jesus of NYPD Blue.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, it is pretty deliberate. Either way.
Yeah, for sure. He probably just liked the way it looks. I don't know that it means anything, but yeah. Yeah.
I had a picture to share, but I can't share it. So there you go.
Is it of Dennis Franz butt naked?
No, it's of him. Blue? It's him as Jesus Christ.
Oh. All right.
But anyway, proceed.
So, yeah, and right now also there is a television guy who wants to talk to Jack and says, hey, why don't you tell your story? I believe you. I think there is something more going on here. And it's the television guy who's probably the movie's version of Real Life Jason saying, people aren't doing enough here.
Yes.
There's something weird going on. So
the reporter's the only one that makes any sense.
Well, but Travolta's like, he's not sure if he buys in that this guy is on the up and up either.
Well,
He's
that's
become
true.
Paranoid.
That's true too, because the way the reporter kind of approaches it isn't so much that I believe you. It's more like I just want a good story, right?
Yeah.
So there is that angle to it for sure. Yep.
Yeah, and so he does eventually decide, it's like, I'll think about it, and it kind of stays in the back of his mind. But then he goes and gets the original film from Sally. It's not even the negative; he just gets the film. Yeah, because she's knocked him out and took everything.
Yeah,
and then he realizes that this is so much clearer. It's obviously a rifle has shot out the tire. And so at this point he decides, you know what, I am going to go to the press with this guy. But John Lithgow has already tapped his phone line. And then we also find out in the course of all of this that there is all of his audio, everything he's ever recorded, even for the movie company, is blank now. It's been erased. The cops are no longer, giving him any benefit of the doubt. You wasted my time by sending this to the lab, and it's come back blank. So at this point he kind of is backed into the corner to basically trust the television guy.
Yeah.
And Lithgow has tapped into the line. He can hear what the guy sounds like.
Yep.
And he has made it so that nobody else can call Travolta. He can make a call out, but everybody else gets a busy signal within. And so he calls Sally to draw her out by saying, I'm the TV guy. Why don't you meet me at Central Station or whatever? And this is where the urge to kill overtakes Burke. So it's like there's this midshipman who's like on I don't know if he's like there for the Liberty Ball or if he's just on shore leave or whatever, but he's negotiating with a hooker to get a blober, and he it's clever. It's like, I thought you said you had $60. Yeah, I thought you said you had 60 minutes. Yeah, and he's like, nah, I really more like got 20, and I got $20. He's like, well, you're probably gonna need at least 30. Yeah, trains run late all the time. They're famous for it here. It's like,
I say urge to kill, but this is just another way to bury the Nancy Allen kill.
Yeah,
right. It is, but he enjoys it. He enjoys it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And it's also, I love when the sailor decides to the deal is struck, and he goes over to his buddies. He has got ask them for money, and they're kind of arguing with them because they got to get to the parade. And he's like, "You guys go enjoy your stupid puppet show."
but then they go into and she's gonna deliver on the goods in the phone booth, and he blows his load too. Talk about a blowout. He blows too quickly.
Yep.
And she's like, I thought you were some sort of big time Navy guy.
Well, he's mad that he blew early, and why is she mad? She's like, "Hey, that's easy money for you."
He doesn't pay her.
But then he doesn't pay her. Yeah, he only gives her $10
he gives her 10. Yeah,
instead
but
of
then
30. Yeah,
John Lithgow's like, I'm going to hold 50 up.
yeah.
And it's like, and she's like, yeah. And
this is really my favorite shot.
It's super good. This is a great moment. Yeah,
well, go for
it's
it,
scary.
Chuck.
Go for it, Chuck.
All right, I'll do my best. She goes to brush her teeth. And
there's a good long shot too. Right before that, there's a good long shot
down the hallway.
When he follows her to the bathroom.
So yes, cool. And he's putting on his gloves. You know, the old giallo.
Oh yeah,
playing with his garrote.
Yep, playing with his garrote. And this is the moment where I'm like, oh shit, that's the sound that was picked up. It took me until then to realize it. But she goes into the bathroom and starts brushing her teeth, and you have a shot from the second stall down on her. And this is where Burke, you said his name was? I never even caught his name in the movie.
Yeah, me neither.
He's looking over, and he's getting ready to choke her, and she keeps backing up and then going forward, and he has to wait. And it's kind of like a funny joke, but it's still suspenseful and terrifying at the same time.
Is he looking over a bathroom stall to choke her?
Yes, he is. Good one. Got it. But
I am on fire today, guys.
You are. But yeah, then you get the shot from under the stall. She finally leans back far enough where he can get the garrote over her neck, and he's lifting her up, and you see her legs kicking the stall door, and then they just stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool. I love the shot from the ones, it's like a 2-stall shot. It's just super cool looking.
Yeah, it's great.
And that was really cool. And there's something else in that shot that was like, well, that's kind of neat. Every stall had their own personal sink.
Yeah, Susan pointed that out too. She's like, wait, why is she brushing her teeth in the stall? I was like, well, there's a sink and a mirror there. She's like, oh, yeah, she didn't notice it.
And then you're like, but wait, why would a stall have that?
Yeah. I guess the train station, it kind of maybe makes sense, you know, give people
like
their private area to freshen up, and or stay overnight in the train station. Yeah.
I've seen that kind of set up in airports still. Not every stall gets them, but certain stalls have the sink.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
It does.
Mostly in handicap stalls now.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Well, there's also, I've seen baby change stations inside stalls now, too.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yep. And those usually have a sink and a mirror and all that stuff, too.
Yep.
But yeah, so he's got what we assume is his second victim in this trilogy of kills he's going to do to hide the Nancy Allen kill.
Oh, it ain't going to stop after Nancy Allen either, I don't think.
No. But you know what's great? Oh, go ahead.
No.
Well, I mean...
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Go
ahead. There's actually a really cool shot here, too, where Nancy Allen and Travolta pull up, and they're talking about what they're going to do, and she's wired, and she's going to meet what we assume, or she assumes, is the news guy, and he's going to kind of follow to stay within range of the conversation and the drop. And when she gets out of the car and starts walking, it pans back, and you can see Lithgow in the window.
Oh, God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It is very cool.
Yeah.
This whole 5 minutes here is great.
That whole wall of that Union Station or whatever is fucking cool. Yeah. Just looking out into the city, basically. That's fucking cool.
Yep.
Yeah. There is, this is where also the one sweet moment of the movie happens. Because she goes in and she's like, hey, we should maybe go to New Jersey and do this and do that. It's just kind of like they're making plans together, but it's only a one-sided conversation, really.
Right.
And he reacts to it in the car kind of sweetly. It's like, it's like, oh yeah, there's something after this.
But in reality, it's just a warning for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lithgow approaches her, and it's like because he knows that that's John Travolta's car outside, Jeep. And he's like, yeah, we need to go find someplace else to talk. As it turns out, we've been followed. And it's
so clever.
Yeah. And then at that point, immediately Travolta's like, something's not right. And he grabs all of his stuff and he follows. So he's like basically just hoping that he can hear where she is.
Yeah, and this is where Sally's just not the brightest bulb in the
Right,
flower
because,
patch.
In the flower patch. Well, I mean,
she would be. I guess if she's a tulip,
like a tulip bulb. Yeah.
The movie does a good job of setting up her stupidity here, though. Like, it's not. You're not like, okay, now all of a sudden she's dumb.
No, she's
dumb the whole time. So
she's, and I wouldn't even necessarily say that she is quote unquote stupid. She's naive,
incredibly naive,
gullible.
She's gullible, and she is also. There is a little bit of desperation because she's she's good at makeup, but she just works at some fucking counter in a Macy's or whatever. It's like, you know what I get paid? I get paid shit. If I do this other stuff with Carp, I get paid something. And so there is kind of also this, there is this side to her that is sinister in one way with Carp, but it's also naive. It's just plain old, trying to make it through life without as many worries as she possibly can.
It's
just funny to me. Yeah. It's just funny to me that her whole conversation with Burke at this point is talking about all the creepy people in the subway.
Yes, and he's right there.
While a literal serial killer is like leading her to her death. Yeah,
he's like, don't look at me. Don't look at me. You'll arouse suspicion. Just walk forward, like setting her up for death.
The guy who literally wiped blood off of his shoe when she arrived.
Right. It's just she has no spider sense at all.
No, she does get a little smart, and she kind of throws in where they're going. Because I think she's a little bit suspicious. She
could have done a little more of that a little earlier, but yeah, she does.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we going to the fireworks?
Yeah, and I love it when he's walking up behind her with the garrote to kill her, and then the guy washing the subway deck walks out, and he's like, "Oh,"
and she's like, "See, look, there's a creepy guy right there."
Like, yeah, right, like cleaning the subway, creepy.
Yeah.
What for?
What for?
So he is like, it's at that point that he realizes what train they're getting on. He gets there too late. So now he has to drive, and
I'm pretty sure
your Liberty Ball, because
fuck that, and fuck the horses. Oh my god,
the horse wipeout was nuts.
I legitimately said out loud, "Oh my god, is that horse okay?"
Yeah, I was like typing. It's like, this parade has so many thetans, and then I was like, "Oh my god, it's like a fucking horse wipeout."
Yep, Steph and I audibly gasped at that. And I was like, "Oh no!
Oh my god, it was."
This is
more than a good actor.
I hope that's a stunt horse. I know they exist.
This is De Palma, not Michael Cimino. That horse survived. If this was Michael Cimino, that horse is fucking dead. But anyway, so like he's plowing through this fucking parade, and the parade just keeps going. He's driving all he where that horsewife, that isn't that where the Rocky scene is? Isn't he up on that?
Yeah, it could be. I'd have to look at it again. Yeah. I mean, it's that whole area is pretty tightly, densely packed with pretty iconic Philadelphia monuments and shit. Yeah.
Well, I know the part that he's driving through, that's Independence Hall.
Yeah. It is.
Because that has all those roadways in there for like the old horse and carriage days. Yeah, so he's well, he knows where they're going. He can't get there. He ends up wrecking literally the parade and
He wrecks everything.
the give me liberty or give me death memorial. And he's like all fucked up. And he's like, it's like, oh, somebody call the ambulance. This poor guy who almost killed a lot of innocent people.
Yeah.
And a horse. So yeah,
he should theoretically be in cuffs when he's in the ambulance, probably.
But this is Philadelphia, and those cops don't give a shit.
Yeah, they don't care.
They're like, wait, did the Phillies win the World Series? Which they did just recently before when they filmed this. It's like, yeah, go Phillies, beat those Royals.
Oh,
anyway, they just thought it was leftover celebration from that. But anyway, so they, so night falls quickly. And they get to where the fireworks are going to be. And you can kind of tell that this is Lithgow's, like, this is his
magnum opus.
Yes, because it's going to be at the fireworks. He is the Liberty Bell killer.
Yeah.
And so Travolta wakes up in the ambulance and it's like, oh wait, I can still hear where they're going. And so it is shortly, so he's like kind of fighting his way through the crowd. They're going up to the top of this bridge or this monument to watch, like where the fireworks are being shot off.
It's like right next to where the bell is, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. Or at least where they have, because they made a duplicate bell to ring.
Yeah.
Them. Yeah. So
it's
this is, yeah. And so they, Travolta's fighting his way through. He sees where they finally are because she calls for him, kind of like out of desperation, because she knows that this guy is bad news. And Travolta gets up there. He sees that Burke is about to stab her with the ice pick to make the Liberty Bell thing, and he grabs it and he puts it into Burke's own stomach and kills him. But he was too late anyway, and Sally was garroted.
Mm-hmm. She dead.
Yes. And he kind of shatters. Because at this point now, he's, it's like now he's kind of obsessed with just listening back to that last recording he made. At this point, he doesn't even it's like he doesn't even care about what the whole movie was about anymore.
No.
He's just kind of lost. But
he makes a very peculiar decision here. Very peculiar.
Yeah, because when her last scream is what he ends up giving to the movie, and the guy's like, "That's a good scream." He's like, "Yeah, it's a really good scream, isn't it?"
Yeah, it's a good scream.
Good scream.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a bummer ending.
It is a bummer ending. I don't even know what to say about it.
It's one of those.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, in a way, it is. There is an element to this where you think of like this kind of darkly romantic thing where she's going to live on in that recording.
Right.
And that's how he's treating it. But he is not doing well because he basically sold that scream to the movie that is going to be forgotten. I mean, it's nothing, but it's something of her that will live on.
Well, and this is the second time in his life that he, like Jason was alluding to earlier, that he wired somebody that resulted in their death.
Yeah.
So
everything
noble he's ever tried to do
has been thrown back at him.
Has resulted in something terrible.
Yeah, abject failure. Yep.
Yeah, and at
his
point,
his ward's death. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and it's like, and it's at this point he's going to probably retreat even more into kind of not giving a shit about anything anymore.
Oh yeah, you could tell by the way he says that's a good scream at the end that he's
he's not there. Yeah, he's not there anymore.
He's just gone. Which is, there is a really, really lot to like about this movie. Like the shots are wonderful. for the
Oh
most
God,
part.
it's beautifully shot. It is again De Palma at the top of his game. Like his visual style is just popping here. Yep.
Yep, and I love the fact that he
Stigmans?
infuses that, this works for me, all the Gialli style
Mm-hmm.
and murder into a political intrigue movie. Like I would love
Yep.
to see more movies like this.
Yep.
With that. But they won't make movies like this anymore, right, guys?
they don't. No.
Well, I mean, and there's the characters themselves are very like it's like this is very much, I mean, this is obviously it's directly influenced and based on Blow Up.
Yeah.
And it's the same type of characters, these vaguely English or American characters who are idealistic for something, even if it's not good, or all their beliefs are all that good. Like, I mean, that's in a way there is, you see that in a lot of movies like that, or like Deep Red, or Bird with the Crystal Plumage, all movie, those other two we've talked about, where there is a character who has some sort of, who builds up to some sort of idealism and is not able to see the forest for the trees. That the ideal that they're going after is blocking the common sense of the process they should be taking. And Travolta falls into that in this.
This movie is also, very, very clearly echoing Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, which would make a really good double feature with this, because that's that whole movie is about a audio surveillance guy who is picking up audio, and he thinks he hears a murder, and he's got to like piece it all together from what he's recorded, right? It's and it's very kind of political intrigue kind of thing too. Does not lean into the giallo aspects like De Palma does, but very similar type movie, where it's all kind of about all your senses, right? Using your senses to detect the and piece things together.
Now I need to watch that.
Yeah, it's good. It's very, very good.
And Blow Up with Susan's least favorite actor, right? David Hemmings.
Yep, David Hemmings. She does
David
not like
Hemmings,
David
yeah. She's not a big fan of him in Deep Red, that is for sure.
But again, that's that short-sightedness that he gets from trying to push forward into figuring out this thing. It's Travolta's got that short-sightedness too, that these giallo heroes kind of end up with, quote unquote heroes, anti-heroes, I guess. But
John Cazale is in The Conversation as well. Interesting factoid about John Cazale: he never acted in a movie that wasn't nominated for Best Picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you spell his last name? I don't even know who that is.
Cazale.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
He was
that guy.
He wasn't in very many movies because he died tragically early, but he was in The Godfather, Conversation, Godfather Part 2, Dog Day Afternoon, The Deer Hunter, and Godfather Part 3.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. Yep.
Well, that's a string.
And I think it was only like archival footage in 3, but still, because he's Fredo,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the music. You want to talk about old Pino?
Oh, Pino. I mean, again, like that's De Palma carrying over his Italian influences, right? He used Pino a lot. Very, very giallo score here. Pino just he I don't know. I don't know what to say really, other than he knows what to give De Palma.
Mm-hmm.
They marry very well screen image to music. And to me, this is, I think, one of probably their best pairings. It really does feel like a giallo film, this one, in a way that doesn't go over the top with trying to be a giallo, like Dressed to Kill, maybe, right?
Yeah.
This one is a little bit more subtly giallo. It
and
tricks
this
you.
one-
It lures you in with political intrigue and tricks you into watching the giallo.
Yeah, and yeah, because the political intrigue again isn't really there. That's the larger story that you can think about later.
Body Double too. His score for Body Double really works well too. That's a great movie. That's what we need to do. It's
I
got some
that.
goofy stuff in it, and I don't actually think it's as good as Blowout. I almost said Blow Up, but man, it's fun. That's one you like a lot, right, Chuck? Body Double.
Yes, I do, and I would love to cover that. That's
We'll collect them all. We'll collect all the De Palma cards.
we'll talk more about that later. But that movie definitely was like one of the ones I watched a lot as a kid, and I think probably directly influences why I love giallo so much now, because that was like a late night watch for me all the time back in the day.
I do want to say real quick that Pino Donaggio also scored a Tinto Brass movie.
I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
All ladies do it, and there's a lady without her knickers on the cover. I'm guessing it has something to do with buttholes.
Oh, this
Tinto
is
Brass loves
this is
buttholes.
This is an interesting factoid. Tarantino used the music cue Sally and Jack in Death Proof.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. One more thing I want to bring up about this movie. There is a point in which the maker of that movie, trying to replace that scream, once again that scream comes into play, where he's got two girls in the sound booth looping the new scream. The brunette in that, the one who gets the second, I saw her and I'm like, she looks really freaking familiar. And the reason why is it's Robin Sherwood, and she was the not Tanya Roberts, not Jocelyn Jones one in Tourist Trap.
Oh, wow.
Also scored by Pino Donaggio.
Yeah. And Pino was everywhere.
But she did stuff with she did other stuff with Brian De Palma too. She was in Carrie also. So
yeah.
But yeah, I know, I recognize, I'm like, I recognize that brunette. Who is that? And I looked, I was like, Robin Sherwood, that sounds familiar. And then I followed the breadcrumbs to Tourist Trap. All roads lead to Tourist Trap.
Pino is one of those guys that just had a lot of overlap in his career. Like, he didn't just work in Italy. I mean, he's kind of like Morricone in that way, right? I mean, not a lot of Italian composers did big Hollywood movies, but he was certainly one of them.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. His last score was Brian De Palma's last movie, Domino.
Oh, wow. I never saw that. De Palma started to, for lack of a more eloquent word, suck later in his career.
Maybe we're not going to collect them all.
I mean,
Maybe
he made
not.
Mission to Mars. So.
Yeah, there it is. Geez, I don't think I saw. I think the last one I watched was Black Dahlia, which was okay.
I like that movie fine.
Yeah. I like those old Hollywood murder mysteries too.
Yeah.
Femme Fatale was okay. Probably his last great movie though was Mission Impossible.
Oh, hey, by the way, circling the drain again around Don't Look Now. That was Donaggio's first score.
Oh, wow. Wait, his first score ever or in America? I guess that wasn't I wasn't
it's
American.
not an American
film, was
film,
it?
no.
Yeah, I know. We talked about that. When we talked about Wicker Man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a British film.
Yeah, British film. We do need to get that on the schedule. Let's just do it.
So, all right. Well, I mean, do you guys have anything else you want to include in this conversation about a blowout?
I don't. I just want to know about these baseball cards. What are you talking about?
A blowout, aka 20 minutes after Taco Bell. That's the Italian title. Translates to 20 minutes after Taco Bell.
I thought the Italian title was Getting the Perfect Scream. Something well on the nose.
Right. You're not going to quite yet stab Nancy Allen.
Yeah, that works too.
It's like, what the fuck does that title? Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, No, I'm Jason. Anything
No, I'm good. We did it.
we did?
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Well, now granted, we are recording this at the end of February, and right now we don't know if next month's theme is going to be timely or not. Might be a
Well,
little early.
if not, maybe it'll be a soothe balm.
Or it will bring both sides together,
Yeah.
and it would be the conversations that save baseball, because
There it
next
is.
month we are doing baseball movies, and we're kicking things off with the Robert Redford classic, The Natural.
Hell
Love it.
yeah.
Heck yeah. Love
so next
it.
Wednesday, that's what's going to be happening. Go to filmseizure.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's when you find out when and where these things happen. And yeah, also on Mondays at filmseizure.com, I've got Monster Mondays, and this Monday is here we go. This Monday's episode on April 4th will be Laser Blast.
Laser blast.
That's a fun little alien monster movie, and I am happy to talk about it. But then, so yeah, you can find that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Like I said, that's when you know when things happen. You can also subscribe to us at places where podcasts are found, like SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. You know those places where podcasts are. Go to podcast.com and you'll find us. I don't even know if that's a thing. Anyway, this Friday on my website, bmovieenema.com, which you can also follow on Facebook and Twitter, I am doing that one sex film that was made about Doctor Who called Abducted by the Daleks. It does not have Doctor Who in it. It's not even really a movie. I don't know how I wrote about it, but I did. So really selling myself well there, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that is this Friday, April 1st, and that is not an April Fool's joke. That movie is an April Fool's joke, but the article is not. So that's what's going on. So guys, do the thing, follow us and all that stuff. And until next week, when we step up to the plate to hit some dingers, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.